very pleased to welcome to the show Nerd Chronic, everybody, the one and only Nerd Chronic. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Yeah, I was very busy last night doing some work for other clients, the off season stuff. And I thought I overslept today, but luckily I didn't. Luckily I'm here.
Hell yeah, very good. Man, that's spectacular. Just I got so many questions about this, the spectacular match. And we were just talking about the length of it. And my question to you is, I mean, that was long from a viewing perspective. What was your work time on that, editing all of that out? I mean, I can't imagine.
It was, I mean, yeah, it took a good while. We started filming back in the latter half of October, and we tried to kind of get all that stuff organized ahead of time just to make sure we're good to go. Like nothing was going to be late. And it was a lot to get through. Like we had like all the matches, all the scenes, each one like majority of them were 5 round matches, obviously, and like that just kind of tacked on like the workload. And yeah, it was a lot to get through for like just the matches themselves. But then for me in particular, like the promos were the hardest part because the promos always, I always like to put like as much effort I can into those, more so for big events like Spectacular. And so those all needed to be kind of like bangers, as they say this year. And I really hoped like I stuck the landing with all of them. I was pretty happy with like the way most of them turned out. So I think it was efforts well spent. I was working on it, I think, up until the day before, just to make
Wow.
sure everything's polished, everything's good. But yeah, luckily I think it all worked out.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, and yeah, you nailed those promos and all that for sure. I especially I especially liked the one for the Inner Geekdom. Um,
Thanks.
yeah.
My
But
favorite.
Dean up there has a question that now when I first had told them we got Nerd Chronic coming on, because I like asking I like talking to folks who work behind the scenes, not necessarily on camera competitors and stuff like that. It's a little bit more interesting, I think, to get that feel and those opinions. But Dean stole my thunder with something he wanted to ask, so I'm going to let him ask it. But I really want to know this. I'm very interested.
Yeah,
So great to have you on here, by the way. Obviously, we know that we've heard from Christian and various places that you were originally going to compete, and then you stepped away from that to do the editing, and that must have been its own kind of hard decision for you to make. But then, even if though you're not competing, even just as a fan, how are you able to enjoy the Schmoedown as a fan when you're editing it? Because surely you said that you were filming as far back as October, so that kind of half answers my question in that you definitely wasn't doing it anywhere near chronological order, I would assume, because obviously you have to wait for like the tournaments, the team's tournament to finish and stuff. And are you able to watch it in real time before you get the footage? And then how do you juggle that if you do? I'd love to know.
Yeah, so for the most part, a majority of the time we actually do film in chronological order. Like for Spectacular, we were able to because we kind of knew at least the matches that were going to air that night. We were able to film in order of like when they would debut of the schedule. Yeah, we had to kind of like dance around the teams tournament, kind of finishing up a little bit by the end of it. But luckily, by the time it did, we hadn't shot the teams match yet, so that way it kind of locked into place when it got there. But yeah, as far as like getting enjoyment out of the show as the editor, I have like I have the luxury of one, like I am in the tapings like when they would tape it like through the StreamYard link and everything, and we do all the everything. So I'm there, I'm watching it as it's happening. So like it's still like a novelty for me. I still get to see it as like a live show, like every single time. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh, that's cool.
There's
That was nice.
yeah, there's a couple times like I couldn't make it, or like the room, like for the teens matches, like it's a full room. As you might know, StreamYards only lets you have, I think, 10 people in the waiting room, hanging out and doing stuff. So when it's a teams match, it's like it's Christian, Mark, the managers, the teammates, PJ, and then our Courtney from Skybound, and yeah, they're all in there like running the show. being part of the show. So like I just wait back, I just hang out, wait for them to send me the file after that, and then I watch it right away. But for the just as watching it as a fan, I was a fan to start with when I first started with the show, and then I eventually evolved into the editor or the promo editor, now the lead story editor, and I like still get like a lot of enjoyment out of it, even though I've seen the match when it taped. I get a lot of fun editing it because like one, I love editing, but also two, I like anticipating what you guys are how you're gonna respond to it, and there's a lot of like small minute choices that go into that for the edits. Like I want to make sure like the wipes, the transitions are right. I want to make sure like the dings are right on the score, or the misses. I want to make sure like like the timing of the question going down is right. There's a lot of like small details like that shift like entertainment value and the way you perceive the match as it's happening. If like things are off, if the graphic seems off, or like the sound seems off, then it kind of pulls you out of it a bit. So I always want to make sure as I'm putting it together that those things are like in place like properly, so that way you don't notice it. You don't notice it, and it's just fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, that was my main
Do you
thing.
do the speed round time as well?
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I was wondering if you were in there maybe making notes as things are going on, watching the matches. I need to tweak this. I need to work on this. So yeah, that was one of my big things I wanted to know too, was when you get to view the matches. That would be just terrible if if you had to view them. I can't imagine if you had to view the matches as you were editing them for the first time.
Yeah.
All the stopping. I don't know. I mean, I don't know your process. That sounds terrible.
No, I'm able to make notes as I'm watching it, and that's why I do like being a part of it, the tapings as much as I can. And because like for the most part, and people always point out, like sometimes point out the edits, like you'll catch in like the final product, and usually like those moments are just them double checking the score, or like like get a drink of water, or closing their blinds or whatever. Like it's nothing nefarious. Like people always want to say like, oh, I wonder what happened between those edits. Like it's just us resetting, and so I always have to kind of like do a jump cut or like wipe if I can. And so I know it helps me to get through those moments easier if I see it. I make a mental note as it happens, and then like when I get to the edit, I know like, okay, we're gonna go right over this part. Like I'll just skip through it. There's like a handful of things that we kind of like in the middle of a match we'll stop and discuss for a bit, because like we want to make sure we got it right, and then we'll cut that out, continue it, just make it clean, make it entertaining. So yeah, as I'm watching the match, I'm able to make notes of that for the edit in my head, and keep that in mind when I finally get down to like polish it up.
Dan?
Yeah, so Greg, first of all, you're incredible. I mean, the promos are really my two favorite ones are definitely the Alex Damon versus the Demolanta, Andrew Demolanta and Ace Cabrera Star Wars file. That was like, that was so good.
Thanks.
And my next favorite one from Spectacular was the team's title, because you put me in there because I was at the Star Wars live event. So you guys, I'm the guy that's high-fiving Mark Andreyko. So thank you for putting me in my second Spectacular. So my question, because I'm leading into it, is
built a whole around that, I'm sure.
Yeah. So my question is it hard to decide which footage you use to decide what you put in the promos?
Yeah, I mean, kind of in a way, as I'm feeling my way through like the process, like putting it together, like certain things jump out to me, and I'm able to like, okay, that's obviously going to fit here. I talked about this with Andrew DiMolanta on his podcast a little while ago, is how I construct it from like from scratch. Is that I find the song first. The song is like the most important part to me. I got to find like, the right song that fits like the tone of the match, the competitors, all this stuff. A lot of like things I just can't like throw any song in there. And so once I have it, there's like foundational like elements that I have in it. There's like load bearing points that I have in the like in my mind, where I'm like, okay, this a drop here, I definitely want to have this shot, like this line here, I definitely see this shot working. And so I start like putting those into place, kind of like a puzzle. Like I put like the big pieces into place first, so I can work around those. And then once I get that, I build like a loose narrative of like how I want to progress to those points. And so that helps me place like footage. If I have like a big moment I want, like in the 2/3 of the way through the promo, I got to make sure, okay, what's happening in that clip. Now I got to build the narrative to kind of fit that to work its way there, so it makes sense. I can't just like start from someone's season 1 debut. Also now they're like we're in season 7 and they're doing stuff. We got to kind of like have like a small through line there to kind of show people like what this means, like how it ties together. And having the footage now after doing so many is easy to find. And so like when I have something in mind, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just pull this from here. I'll just put this here, and it's kind of like dumping out like 100 puzzles worth of stuff and like putting together like a new picture every time. Like I just like the pieces will fit somewhere, but I just know every piece like very well. It's not, I know like if I want to put something here, I'll just grab this and grab this and grab this. This year in particular though, I think it was a little bit difficult. It was a little more difficult because we're not in studio, so like all we have is like the digital matches, which are fun and like they've been fantastic. But as far as like shock value spectacle goes, I really need more of those like slow motion, like really cool like shots that I've put together with my buddy Dwayne Burke, doing all that stuff. And I kind of wish, I hope we can get back in the studio as soon as possible, because I really want to start shooting that stuff again, because that's, I think, what really makes all the promos pop more than just like StreamYard clips.
Yeah,
well, you make them great. So
thanks, thank you.
To kind of follow on from that quick with the footage side of it, do you have some kind of agreement with all the competitors that anytime they make a promo and upload it, they have to send it to you as well? Or do they make you go like trawling through their social media for any little clips like a Brandon Hanna or somebody like that, where they're constantly posting things on their social media accounts? You have to go searching for all of that stuff.
It depends on who they are. Like some of them are pretty good at sending me that like right away. You just like they know to like make sure it gets to me so it can be used in the match. Some like I keep tabs on like as much people as I can to like see if they're posting stuff, or like some of the after shows to see like if there's a competitor or someone relevant at the moment. Like if they're on a show that they say something cool or exciting, I want to grab that clip and put it in the match. And so, yeah, I try to keep tabs as best as I can. But for the most part, procuring promos from everyone, we have people from Schmoedown that help me out with that. Like they are really on top of that. They helped me out so much this year, just like organizing all that stuff into the folders and like making sure everyone got the stuff on time. So that way, it was like the last thing I had to worry about. I just had to like find the folder with the stuff in it, pull it out, get to work, and like it made the whole process much faster.
that's great.
And
it's
visions of you like just having to describe this tool to everyone.
Skybound being coming on into the picture is you can tell it's up the game so much. But I do want to kind of backtrack a second here. Like we all know, you were going to enter the draft, but because of your job editing, just not going to work out. What division would you want to play in the Schmoedown? And of the managers and the factions, is there anyone specific, or maybe a couple people that you would want to, or you think would be able to manage you very well?
I wanted to, when I first pitched myself last year, I wanted to get into Intergeekdom. That's obviously like Nerd Chronic, it makes sense. That was like that's definitely my bread and butter. Having seeing like just a bunch of like all this stuff, like movies and comic book movies, DC, Marvel, Star Wars, all that things. And but now after viewing kind of like where the competition is at this year, and maybe just like my general knowledge of film that I kind of maybe underestimated, I think I would be comfortable like going into like singles and teams, doing a run there. I don't know. I definitely think Intergeekdom is like definitely my strongest point, but I definitely think I could hang in singles pretty well. And but as far as like managers go, I think Shannon is the one that originally drafted me, and she drafted me off of a recommendation from Chance, because Chance, whenever he would come he comes for the studio matches, he crashes at my place with like to the party. Usually they all come together, and I would do my quizzes, like the ones I do now with Video Drew. I had them just like in an app that I would write them with, just like on my own. I didn't do that for anyone else except for my friends and my family. And so I would write it with the intent of like, just drilling people for fun and stuff. And hey, there they are. And
Late to the party. Thank you for viewing, everybody.
So they were part of it. They saw, I would drill some quizzes with them and Chance. It's like part of just like a fun, like a little quiz, little like you drill with them. And Chance, I stumped him on a few, like on several ones. So like I think he kind of respected that I had like that knowledge locked away somewhere. That I was like writing down for myself. And so he recommended me to Shannon. He said like, hey, this guy wants to play. Like he definitely knows his stuff. He's very serious about like studying. He knows how to study. He knows how to write questions. He knows how to look at questions. And so she, at the last year's awards after the draft, she still had 2 spots open, or like 3-4 spots open maybe. And so she talked to me afterwards. She's like, hey, like Chance says, you're really interested in playing. Like, and he's like, so I wanted to, see, like, are you serious? Like, are you serious about it? I said, absolutely. She said, do you think you can handle, doing the editing and like the game? I said, yes, absolutely. So she's okay, then I'll give you a shot then. And so she, the next day when we had to like, lock in all the picks for the remaining faction slots, she drafted me as her last slot. And so I think, I was looking forward to playing with Corruption that year. Like, obviously Chance is a friend of mine, and I was really excited to see what Shannon was going to do with like that story and that faction that year. And in hindsight, it's crazy the way it worked out. Like kind of the way I highlighted it in my promo though, like is that I was that slot that Adam Collins eventually filled, and then like kind of came and ran the whole thing for the latter half of the year.
And real quick follow-up, was that were you given a choice by Christian, like, do you want to be in the Schmoedown or be the editor? Or I would imagine Christian would recognize what he's got in your ability and your talent, and would probably, in my guess, maybe lean on you to do the editing rather than was there a decision, or were you just kind of told?
It was kind of told. I don't want to phrase that in like a negative way. Like,
I didn't want to phrase it like that either. I just don't know how else to.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, so what the timeline of events was that we signed with Skybound, at the end of last year, and then he announced it at the beginning of this year in New York, and in between that time, before like it was like revealed, before it was like finalized, and like we had a public, he called me and said like, hey, we're gonna sign with Skybound, can you meet me at their offices like this week, so we can like talk over like you coming on for full time. And I was like, yeah, because I already discussed like I would love to, I was doing the promos at that time. I would love to get like like a bump, see like just to kind of like fill out like my work for the proper compensation. He's like, yeah, absolutely. So I went and talked with them. We met with someone at Skybound who was like kind of in charge of like the whole production, like handling like the Schmoedown element of it. And he Christian and I just talked in his office, and he said like I want you to come on as the full-time editor to handle like the entire show top to bottom, and cover like the matches and the promos. It's gonna be a lot of work, but it'll definitely be like like we're gonna grow. This guy was gonna help us like take care of this. And I thought it over. I said, yes, like I would love to take the opportunity, and I started. After the New York event, that was handled by our previous editor, Aaron Wilhelm, who like kind of set up this whole thing with the Schmoedown. To like he gave us a lot of like the stuff that we know now. So like I stand on his shoulders for what kind of like what I'm doing like with this year. But after that, like so I had agreed. I made an agreement with Christian to be the lead editor for the show in January, and then the draft was still in January, later at the end of January. And I was drafted, and he knew it. He was part of it. He put me in the draft, so he was fine with it. But it wasn't until we got closer to the start of production of the studio tapings, and PJ Campbell, took over as head writer of like the show. And so like the process that we were going to have was that PJ had to have like a master document of everything, all the questions that we had. And the structure at the time was just that I was going to have access to that document, to like all the questions. So it was a conflict of interest for me to see like those questions and still compete. So he said, just in that sense, it wasn't going to work out. And so it wasn't like he wasn't really giving me like a choice. Like, do you want to play or do you want to like stay on as the editor? Because I had already agreed to be the editor, and like I wasn't gonna like renege on that. To say like, I know I want to play. Like, find a new editor, find someone else who knows the show as well as I do, find someone else who does the promo as well as I do. Like, that's a much more difficult position to put him in. So I would never do that. So it was like it was an obvious choice to like both of us, is what I'm saying. And like I think we both kind of knew like it just wasn't going to work out for me to compete, and for the sake of the show, like, and the show growing, I needed to stay on as the editor and just do that and focus on that to make sure that's safe and sound. So like, yeah, but I think it was like difficult. It sucked. Like it was a big bummer. I think everyone kind of watches the show like somehow like dreams that they could be on it, that they could like compete like in some fashion. And like I was like close to the mountaintop there for a moment. And I was really excited to do it, but in hindsight, like I would do it again, especially with the way this year turned out. Like I think I not to pat myself on the back too hard, but I really don't know who else would have been able to handle like the bulk of work and like the curveballs that we were thrown this year. Especially with like like the pandemic and like having to shift to digital. It was a lot to like deal with, and I'm proud to have done it. And I'm glad that I did it, because I think I was happy to help keep the show afloat as well as I could with my contributions this year, because I think we, in other hands, this might have fallen apart. This might have like, suffered a little bit, but I'm glad to see that, we're here. December, everyone had a great year. We had a fantastic spectacular. I think one of the best we've ever had. And I'm really proud to have been a part of that.
Yes, absolutely. I know we all agree. We've been talking about it. Well, not just today, but this week also. And thank you not only for your work on the Schmoedown and the spectacular in particular, but Nerd Chronic, sir, thank you for your time here today too. Really appreciate it. Keep up the great work. We're all totally stoked for next season.
Yeah.
This season it turned out a lot different. It went a lot different than I thought it would. With the factions and everything, but it worked out really great, and we're definitely looking forward to next season. Why don't you tell the folks where they can find you at on the social media?
You can find me at Nerd Chronic across all social media, just Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. I also do just the Video Chronic Pop Culture Quiz with my friend Video Drew every Monday and Thursday. I will be competing this Monday. I will be competing on my own show, doing a short-term 12 quiz against Sabrina Ramirez. So that'll be a fun one. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir, and hopefully we'll see you back on here again sometime in the future. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you guys.
All right, Nerd Chronic, everybody. You want to hear something funny? The mic wasn't on that whole time.
No way.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, wow.
So smooth.